Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Joe and we've reached phase 3 of our project. And in the previous video, we added a click event to our button, and that click event called the next prompt function. And the next prompt function we defined here, and it was used to use jQuery to inject our first prompt into the HTML. As well as increment the current prompt value by 1, which means with every click of the button, current prompt would be incremented by 1, and we'd call that value from the array, and then we'd display it on the screen. And that works great. Now, we need to take it one step further. So the objectives that we're going to be covering here is making the first prompt visible when the page loads. So we can actually initiate the game the minute the page loads. Next objective is to write an if statement to evaluate where we stand in the sequence of questions, and then an else statement to display the results or kind of provide some sort of notification that we've actually ended the game. So I'm going to get rid of our objectives here, and let's jump right in. All right, so we should have prompt will be displayed here. Once again, I'm not crazy about this being displayed. We want to show the first question, so that's easy enough. What we want to do here is to display the first question, or display, we've been using prompts, so display the first prompt in our array. So how are we going to do that? Well, what we're going to do is simply call the next prompt function. And by doing that, when the page loads, it executes this for the first time. And it goes through this process of putting the first question in there and then incrementing the current prompt by 1. That's great. Now we need to evaluate where we stand in the questions. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add an if statement. If there are, or if there is another question, another prompt, display it, okay, else display we are done. So let's do that. Okay, so we're going to start with an if statement. Now an if statement requires some conditional logic, which goes into the parentheses and then runs a code block, which is in the curly braces. The else statement by itself doesn't have a conditional statement. It's kind of the last thing to run if nothing else is true. So what are we trying to evaluate here? Well, we know two things. We know current prompt is being incremented by 1. We also know that the prompts array has a length. So what we could possibly do here is do if current prompt, right? If its value is less than prompts.length, then do something, right? Okay, well, what are we going to do? Well, what we're going to do is all of this. This is what we need to do. So we're going to move that logic in here, and we're going to format it so it looks nice. Right here, right here, right here. Great. Then we have our else statement. And the else statement is, hey, what are you going to do if we reached the end of it? Well, we actually want to kind of indicate or give them a message that we finished. So once again, I'm going to grab the prompt and I'm going to inject HTML into it. And what are we going to say? We're going to say we are done. There we go. So there we have our logic. So based on this, if we save this and we test it out, let's go next, type an adjective, type a noun, and then we are done. Great. So what we've learned here is how to execute a function on page load, as well as display some conditional logic to kind of walk us through the process of knowing where we stand in regards to how many questions, as well as what do we do when we are finished. Okay, so that pretty much concludes phase 3 of our project. And then the next lesson we're gonna cover some additional items such as reviewing the form fields and using them to capture the user responses from each prompt, as well as making JavaScript remember the answers your users type into the forms. See you in the next video.